boy who plays soccer at 12 hair.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of getting into that territory, so I need to go get cheeked up.
You don't want to look like
it's okay.
a little soccer boy?
I would rather not look like that.
No, I get that. The in-between phase of going like there's that point when it goes from too short.
It's like
to or like from just right to too long.
Me and the woman who cuts my hair, we worked it out. We figured out it's 10 weeks for me.
Cool.
I have 10 weeks. Hey Chelsea.
Hey Victoria.
You know what I need?
What do you need?
A breath of fresh movie.
Oh my god, me too.
That's a movie I like to see.
We're still shaking things up.
20
eps in.
Oh my god, this is the 20th episode.
Pew, 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 pew.
Pew, pew, pew.
Let's go.
Very sound.
20.
This is our 20th episode. I don't know, 20 felt like a special number, so we decided to...
We're doing something that's like an homage to our starting episode that also shows an arc of progression, I think.
Yes.
On both our part and the subject's part, Elaine May.
Yeah.
This followed A New Leaf.
It did. This is the next movie
I think 20 follows 1.
Yes.
As far as podcast episodes
it's like
go.
20 episodes represent, I don't know, what, like 20 months.
Yeah.
I don't know if like...
Gosh, we've been doing
20 injustices.
20.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to
20.
make it.
It's been 20 weeks.
Maybe 20 is significant to Elaine in some way. I don't know.
Significant.
Yeah. Oh, this is a breath of fresh movie.
Yeah, so welcome to A Breath of Fresh movie.
Yeah. I'm sitting across from Chelsea Pope.
And I'm sitting across from Victoria Harley.
Yeah, and I know you can't tell our voices apart, but that's who we are.
I know, right? Our voices do sound kind of similar sometimes.
I'm working on it, like I'm working on it.
I'm not. I'm trying to sound more like you. I'm trying to...
Oh, no.
Every time...
This is just going to be like a dog chasing its tail. Then.
Pretty much.
Like, I'm going to become you, and then you're going to become me. And then I'm going to have to become someone else. I think we should both, after last week's Elvira episode, I really feel like we should rethink us as characters.
I could not agree more. I'm still thinking about, the idea is the inspo of Elvira.
Like I feel like maybe the show will be taken over by 2 other people. Wink, wink. One day. Not us.
I could totally see that happening.
But things we assume.
I mean, we can certainly explore more about guests. Yeah. I think the main thing...
I would base my character on Elaine Stritch, though, for sure.
Sure. Which is great. I like the idea of relating, like having a character, but not... I just wouldn't want to have to feel the pressure of always trying to have to come up with like a joke line for the character. Like I'd want this to still feel very conversational.
It has to be in character.
And it would be really grounded. As if I were doing like
this
a character
relates
thing.
So much to what our movie is today. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
oh my God, you're so right.
You're humming right along there.
Yeah.
So every week we watch a movie that neither one of us has ever seen, and then we talk about it.
Yes.
And this week we haven't said it yet.
It's crazy.
We've done this week. The Heartbreak Kid.
That's right. Elaine May and Neil Simon.
1972.
That's right.
I watched it on YouTube. I hope me saying that doesn't get it pulled down.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to fucking find it anywhere else.
They never show this anywhere.
Jesus Christ. I was trying to search it. I had to Google.
Doesn't exist.
It's not on fucking Amazon Prime.
Also,
it's not on Tubi. It's not on Pluto. It's not on Criterion. It's not on Canopy. It's not on fuck all. I was so frustrated until I just saw, it was on YouTube.
It's YouTube. Yeah. I mean, even locally... one of the American Cinematics, they did an Elaine May Mondays, but they didn't show the Heartbreak Kid. This is a hard thing to get a hold of, apparently, and it's seldom screened. It's fucked up, and it's all part of this whatever. This why is the world?
Why is the world a fuck to Elaine May?
Yes.
And
why is the world?
I just said her name weird, but
it's fine.
It's okay.
It's fine. Yes. Why? She has been dealt so many knocks, and so last time we talked about her, I encourage you to listen to our first episode, although admittedly the least coherent that we ever did. And
we're so much better now.
I feel like
smoothest.
Maybe it isn't. I don't know.
I think we're doing pretty good, actually. I feel like we were hitting all the beats.
But we covered a lot of her general biography and a lot of what we could find out about A New Leaf when we talked about A New Leaf. this time around, you know, we've gained a greater appreciation both since that episode and in the 20 weeks or so since we did that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think we've had time to like really settle on like the things that kind of make us angry, honestly. You know, we were very admiring of her and respecting her stamina, but it's kind of fucked up that she had to have that stamina and that like, yeah, she's kind of starting to get her due, but just now. And the more we read about her and understand about her career, the more we realize she beat down a path for a lot of people.
Yes.
Who don't necessarily even know they owe that to her.
She's a really important pioneer figure.
And then she's also just fucking funny.
Yeah, dude.
Which is like, should be the first thing, really, you know?
And
I mean,
I think her appreciation of like naturalism, you know,
yeah.
I think the way that is conveyed between these two movies, I think there's a respect for
totally
a very sort of dry but fun, grounded, natural comedy.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it just, like...
It's very much focused on the interdependence of people.
Which I just have to say is just, it's so funny that from this iteration would then come a fucking Farrelly Brothers 2007 remake, which is...
Okay, I'm going to... We're going to give Chelsea a section of time.
I know, because it's gonna keep sputtering out.
I know you're going to need to talk about it, but there's a terrible remake of this movie. You will get time. I just think we should corral that energy real quick.
I know, you're right.
Because
you're right.
We need to start at a good place.
I agree, and I also do want to, like, you know...
And by being in the good place, it'll make that even more...
I agree.
Bad place.
No, for sure. I'm chill. I'm like hella chill. My foot's like barely moving right now. No, but like... I do, you know, like as we are wont to say for most movies that we have not enjoyed, I feel like we always are, I think, pretty upfront about wanting to like say that we respect that people are behind these movies and that like, you know, this is, I'm sure there are people that are behind the 2007 Heartbreak Kid. They're just good people. You know, it's good people.
You know how many people were probably, I mean, as much as like making a remake is always a little bit fraught, I bet there were a ton of people though who were very excited, right?
Sure.
Oh my god, like the Heartbreak Kid, like optimism, I'm sure abounded.
It performed. It was a commercial success.
Yeah.
You know.
Yay.
Funnily enough.
Great.
If I read that, unless I read the numbers backwards.
No. I'm not questioning it. It's just like.
Well, now I'm still questioning it.
Before we get into the hate for that, first impressions or just anything, opening remarks.
Yeah, just more of the same of what we've kind of just said already, which is that it's seriously a shame that this movie is not more accessible. And after having watched the movie too, I feel even more of just like what a miss that is that that isn't something that you can find on a streaming platform, because this is a movie that I think should be regarded maybe when like if we want to bring in all the elements of both of these films, maybe it's not a fair comparison to put it up against like The Graduate in terms of
I think
like
that's very fair.
but I think of like in terms of perfect cinematography, although there were some lovely shots. Like,
I mean, we were watching it on YouTube. It was not an ideal format.
Exactly.
Like,
it's true.
See a clean print of this. No, I don't even think, you know, it has some really key shots. It has some great shots, but so does this movie. Like, you know, you are. I don't think of The Graduate. This will sound shitty. It has many visual elements, but I don't want to say I don't think of The Graduate for its visual elements, because I do. I mean, there's the pool, and you know, there's all these things.
Pool, the lake, the
all
bus.
This, I mean, it is very visual. I mean, I can't support that.
Great shots.
But I guess I just feel like though when I think about The Graduate, it's more of a mood I think about, or that I'm like awash in.
Yeah.
Rather than like The Graduate, it's like, oh. Like it's like a wound, you know. It's like
The Graduate is an emotional.
It's an emotional response you have to it. that's why it's good. That's why it's so good. But I had the same feeling to this. This was like
the Heartbreak Kid. There's so many similar themes and like just
manhood. Thinking like this is you're supposed to do this big grand gesture and going through these weird motions that are really absurd. And like, I mean, I read something, I don't know who it was, but apparently an ex-boyfriend of Elaine May's from her like days in Chicago when she was an improviser said something about her, how like she thought everything men took seriously she thought was hilarious, you know. And like that's what this movie feels like to me. Like the joke is on Lenny. The joke. So I mean, so quickly, this is a movie in which a young couple has just gotten married, they just get married. It's like it happens early on in the story. They get married and they're going on their honeymoon trip to Miami Beach. On the honeymoon trip, the husband Leonard, what happens is he's already getting annoyed with his wife. Like he's already kind of realizing like, oh, I didn't know this woman before I married her, and suddenly all these little foibles are appearing, and I'm noticing all of them. And you can see this. Charles Grodin's great at registering psychic pain. Yes. You feel every indignity, and it's not to say that you don't have any empathy with him for that. I mean, the egg salad on the chin, things like that. Anyway, but this woman inherently has done nothing wrong. They basically have a good thing going. And he meets this other woman after his wife gets a sunburn. Yeah. She gets this nasty sunburn, has to stay in her room. So he meets this other woman. And then the rest of the time of his honeymoon, he spent is just wooing this other woman and trying to figure out how he can get out of his marriage, which he does. And he follows this woman back to her family home, proceeds to woo her. And it's more or less the story. I mean, he does marry her in the end. Yeah. Anyone listening to this knows that we don't really actively spoil things, but we also don't try to ruin. Yeah. I would love to talk about that last line, but
I think we absolutely
should. This whole story ends with him being just as unsatisfied as when he began, essentially. Exactly. And that is the
and there's a very lonely sitting with the choices you've made beat that very much echoes the end of The Graduate, where you're after everything, this is it now.
I was 10 once. I wrote that line down not knowing it was going to be the last line. Yeah. And it was like, oh fuck.
Yeah. It leaves you with that same sense of vacancy.
Yeah, and just his expectations of what women, how they were supposed to receive him, what they were supposed to do.
Oh, he certainly did some repulsive, terrible behavior. He was very manipulative.
But the woman he falls in love with, what's her name again? Is it
Corcoran? Oh,
I want to say Katie.
Katie Corcoran. Kelly Corcoran.
Kelly Corcoran. She herself, though, manipulates him.
Oh, absolutely. She's definitely not... There's a virtuous character. She's a young flirt. She's on this vacation with her dad. She reminded me of the college girls in White Lotus.
I was totally thinking about White Lotus.
I would not be shocked at all if there had been borrowed elements between the two, because
I'm so glad very you said much that. I was totally thinking about White Lotus.
She doesn't quite look as young. Sybil Shepherd's always had that perpetually 27-year-old
I know.
look.
What is that?
And that was actually kind of the case across the board with the film, because at one point, when Charles Grodin's character Leonard's, dumping Lila, and he's like, well, you're 22. And I was like, God, I kept forgetting that they're that young. They're that young. I know. I was projecting that they're my age, about 30.
He has one of those faces, though, that he kind of always looks...
He always looked like 33.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, Charles Grodin is as good looking as he's ever been, in a movie, is in this one. And
they have a weird relationship that develops from the get-go, where Charles Grodin's character is just really annoyed with his wife for not putting on the sunscreen or whatever, and then
she gets burned.
Literally in that same scene, that Sybil's character, Kelly, she just walks up and deliberately bumps into the guy, or bumps into Leonard. It just shamelessly just starts flirting with him, and then kind of turns over and sees the wife she multiple times is like, oh, your cute little wife. Yeah. Oh, where's your cute little wife?
Yeah, she is kind of cunty.
She's honestly she's really, this is such a game for her, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's it exactly.
Unserious. It honestly feels like she's mostly doing this actually to piss off her father, which we don't.
Absolutely.
There's a whole other movie we're not seeing where she's just being a deliberately shitty kid to her parents.
And there's these things that he's discovering about his wife that he's kind of I didn't know about this about her before. Right. But he's rushing into this other thing. I mean, he's repeating all the same behaviors.
Absolutely.
I read some review somewhere that described this movie as a triumph of New York Jewish humor. In the mainstream. He's chasing after, they do establish that it's a Jewish wedding, is the wedding we see him in. And they establish really quickly, and they're going on vacation in Miami Beach, I mean, they establish really quickly, this is a Jewish family and this is a Jewish world. And he's chasing after this wasp, this white, blonde haired, blue eyed from Minnesota, family. And he does this whole act where he I mean, that scene at the dinner table with the family where he's like essentially cribbing from that editorial, you know, that he read, and like just talking about like the soil and the air, and there's no deceit in that cauliflower.
There's no deceit in the cauliflower. Oh my God, it's such bullshit.
And then when the father sees right through it, you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
like you're so fucking annoyed at this point, or you should be. However, Charles Grodin talked about how he was really troubled by the audience's failure to see this as critique.
Yeah, he's a Patrick Bateman of sorts.
Yeah.
No, not really though. Not really.
No, not really. But he's
a misunderstood character, not seen for his flaws.
I mean, I have a quote here. It says, "The number of men who tell me how much they love the movie, how much they identify with the character, while flattering, is also somewhat frightening."
Yes.
And I think he's exactly on the money there. And that's what I think this movie gets misinterpreted in all kinds of ways.
Yes. And quite literally.
Because there are criticisms of Elaine May is that like, oh, you know, she doesn't write these stories that have strong women. The women are also ridiculous and all this. But okay, first of all, she cast her daughter, Jeannie Berlin, to play opposite, you know, the wife, Lila. The character is so much like the character in A New Leaf that Elaine May played. I felt like I was seeing that same.
She was a strong character. But she also was not a total, like, I feel like Elaine May in A New Leaf, there was a deliberate sort of a little bit of haplessness, and it was just dropping the teacup.
You're right. There was way more haplessness.
Whereas in this one, which is not a critique on that character.
No, but she's a little haplessness. I mean, she can't swim.
Yeah.
She fucks up with the sunburn.
Yeah. She's a little fixer upper.
Yeah. And she's like, what? You can't swim? She's like, you knew that.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I did.
Yeah.
Like there's all these. So one other film we've watched now with Charles Grodin was Clifford. Yeah. And Clifford was very much like, felt like the manifestation of the anxiety of a first child.
Yes.
Like, what if your first child is a fucking monster and you can't, you know, like, oh, and that's kind of Clifford. This feels kind of like a manifestation of a different sort of anxiety, this like anxiety of commitment. Yes. Like it kind of feels like he had like a one night stand, woke up, but was married, you know, because he's so blindsided and blown away by her. And it leads to such wonderful, tense, like conversation. Like there's this great line when they're I don't know if they're in the car or what, but he's like, don't put a Milky Way in someone's mouth when they don't want it.
Yeah, that's such a good one. There's so many good lines.
There's so many good lines, but it feels kind of like somebody's nightmare come to fruition.
Absolutely.
And I think it's like a lot. I think maybe the thing that is disturbing is that, it was a lot of young men's nightmare apparently.
Yes.
And the fact that, you should not be rooting for this guy. That's basically the point we're trying to make here.
No, totally. I think
he's a child.
He is childish, and there is a disappointing.
There's also like a Men in Blondes thing going on here too. Just like just like falling over yourself for like that perfect white sorry.
I get it.
Like Sybil Shepherd is perfectly cast because I hate her.
She's like playing that.
Or I hate the
too. She's very self-assured. Like that, you know, there are multiple instances.
She's a homewrecker.
She brings the Charles Grodin's character in front of her father, just like you can see her watching her father to be like, I'm
gonna blow his top.
Like I know you don't want me to be with this guy. I'm just trying to piss you off. Like,
and then like she goes back. I mean, her vacation ends and they leave, and she goes back to Minnesota where she like is going to school, and she's like surrounded by men, surrounded by these like
these tall Svens,
very yes, a whole bunch of Svens. Like it is like this waspy white world up there.
Yes,
you know. So I learned that this story was based on this movie is based on a short story called A Change of Plan. Which is kind of what happens, by Bruce J. Friedman. And it was published in 1966 in Esquire. And then Neil Simon adapted it into the screenplay, of course. Right. And of course, Elaine May directed it. Jeannie Berlin, who played Lila, was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Eddie Albert, who played the father, was also nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Pauline Kael from the New York Times, in her review, said, Elaine May has the rarest kind of comic gift, the ability to create a world seen comically. And I think that's like a really nice way to describe this.
So true. Again, it just ties to the naturalism of the humor. There are very absurd things that happen, but it's very believable.
It's also a film that both the content and the creators themselves, it's part of the Hollywood Jewish New Wave.
Yes.
Like it's most of the major keys and supporting people, producer, writer, director, they're all Jewish. It's not necessarily trying to be that.
Right.
Or labeling itself in that way, but it's important to acknowledge that it is. Like, I read an interesting critique, the Academy Museum that just opened in Los Angeles. A lot of people are raving about it. They're saying it's really cool, but I did see a think piece kind of describing, hey, you kind of left out the fact that, like, you know, Jewish people built Hollywood.
Yeah.
There's really no mention of that anywhere. And it's like, that's a little funny.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to say Mad Libs, or it's a crude way of looking at it, but you could sort of swap in other socioeconomic people. You know, you could, it doesn't necessarily have to be in looking it through that Jewish cultural lens to appreciate this film. This is just like very American problem, I feel like.
Absolutely.
And it's also
just a human problem.
It's a class issue. It's a very much, you know, it's not really necessary. I mean, they really drive the point home that he's less driven. He finds her very physically attractive.
Yeah.
You know. But also it's very much, it is a class lust thing too.
Yeah.
And,
no, that's a really
and there's
solid
this
point.
admiration I think people maybe had for Charles Grodin's ambition, because he was so able to tell these very, very detailed, wild stories so confidently. He has a bit of like a Frank Abagnale vibe, the way he goes up to like the kids and like is grilling them about their names and the drugs. And,
oh my God.
you know,
when he poses as the narcotics officer.
He's just really good at bullshitting.
I mean, it was a good power move. It did impress her.
Yeah, he does these things as power moves a number of times. You know, when he's lying to his wife, and you know,
and it is kind of, he is very clever in all his deceits. I mean, like the way he reasons with Lila.
He's not like a bumbling fool.
No, he's worked it out. Like he's, for as smart as he is also very stupid. Like
and
it's like misapplied ambition.
Exactly.
It's like misapplied, like his dedication that he shows. You know, like once I, you know, set my mind to something, you know, it's like, right, conveniently that is the identity you're embracing right now because you want to get this girl.
Yeah.
But then he gets her, and then he's like at this Gentile wedding, and he's completely surrounded by wasps, and nobody like him is anywhere, and he's just sitting on a sofa by himself. And
yeah, no, it's lonely.
It's like, oh, that's not gonna end well.
Yeah, he just isolated himself. But
you know, if it didn't end that way, though, I'd be angry.
Yeah,
right. Like, or at least I don't know. I'm not trying to tell you that you should be angry, but I think I would be frustrated if he didn't
face some sort of comeuppance.
Yeah, and if the comeuppance is truly just like the recognition of like, shit, like there's that hole again.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, of course, yeah, that is what happened. Kitty. She wants toys.
I will say I do just appreciate that his character was, for all of his industriousness and ambition, meant to be specific. Like Elaine May and Neil Simon, they're not shying away from the fact that this guy is being an asshole. You know, he's not. He's not a redeeming. He doesn't have any redeeming qualities necessarily.
No.
And you know, he's not necessarily supposed to be a redeemable figure. No. Versus, I think of the 2007 movie, they're really trying to go out of their way to make him more sympathetic, which he's not meant to be sympathized with.
Yeah, I mean,
don't think.
You know, I heard you talk a little bit about how frustrated you were by what you saw of the remake, and I do think there's something interesting there that like there were all these men who came up to Grodin, right, and identified. It was like the Farrelly brothers were one of those people, like or sets of people, or whatever. They were representing that viewpoint.
Exactly.
That, like they the misinterpretation that like you didn't see it as critique, and you did a remake that is completely absent of even any attempt at critique.
Imagine this movie but without any sense of like that self-awareness about it, really.
Exactly. And like that sounds awful.
Yeah.
And I pass.
Yeah.
You said it did well at the box office.
Yeah, it made twice its budget back. You know, it's technically a commercial success. And I mean, you know, Ben Stiller, this looked like another movie, I think, like in the same vein as like Meet the Parents
Along
and Along
Came
Came Polly,
Polly.
plays
Yeah.
this kind of encumbered guy who's struggling with like,
Yeah.
women be needy or women's family,
Yeah.
like, oh man, I'm
Yeah.
just this guy, I'm just trying my best and I always have bad luck.
Yeah.
And I just got a parking ticket.
Ah. No,
Which I already just do not like that in general. I personally was not a fan of Meet the Parents. I get it much more now, but
it was one of those movies I went to see at the Dollar Theater. We had this place called the Danbury Dollar Saver South, and it was a place you went for a second run. And I saw a lot of movies that were not good for like $2.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of them. But it was one I remember people really roaring in the aisles at.
Yeah.
You know? Oh my
I mean,
God.
I think she wanna play.
Oh my God. This movie opened in December 1972. Some other movies that were out around then: Poseidon Adventure, Avanti, Sleuth, Man of La Mancha, and Travels with My Aunt. And this is the era of Pong and Nixon.
Yes.
In case anyone needed a refresher on 1972.
And the Forrest Gump timeline. This is when he. This is.
Do you have a shrimp boat yet? Or is he in Nam?
This is probably right around the time he had been sent home after he had shook hands with the president after he had gotten shot in the buttocks.
Yes.
And then became a ping pong.
Yeah, you pronounced that correctly. You said he shook hands.
Shook hands with the
Shuck.
Shuck got shot in the buttocks.
Okay. She needs. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
She's clearly like.
Phone break.
Okay, so that's all we know really about the Heartbreak Kid. I tried to find more information about, its production and whatnot, but I couldn't find much. Mostly what you need to know, this is the second film of Elaine May's. It was probably the most critically well received. And I don't know how it did at the box office, unlike the remake. I have no idea if it made back or went over budget or what.
This is the original film?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It lists in rentals a solid chunk of change.
Yeah, things are reported differently over the years, so you can't always get that detail. But, I just wanted to get back to the director's chair a little bit and talk some more about Elaine May.
The show.
Again, we did talk about her in our very first episode, so you can get kind of a general biography there. She's one of the few women who really has done the writing to directing path, and for a time she was the only woman directing in the studio system. She was definitely known as a script doctor, a lot of uncredited work on things. She adapted Such Good Friends in 1971 under the pseudonym Esther Dale. She was the uncredited co-writer of Tootsie. We mentioned that in our last episode. The woman who's been devoted to stories of comedy that relate to the interdependence of neurotic characters. She has been quoted as saying, "You can kill somebody straight or you can kill somebody funny. Funnier is closer to life." I think about the Coen brothers, actually, when I read that.
Yeah.
You know how many deaths are kind of like oddly funny, but then like sad? Because they were funny. Because they were sort of undignified. And isn't that cruel how life can be?
Oh, absolutely.
Can kill you and kill you in a funny way.
Yes.
Ugh. Famously, Elaine May hasn't had an interview since 1967.
Crazy.
And she very much eschews press rooms. She doesn't like going to big events. When she won her Tony in 2016 for the Waverly Gallery, after she gave her acceptance speech, she didn't go into the press room like most people do. She just went and sat back down in her seat and watched the rest of the show. Yeah. Looking very unimpressed.
Wow.
So
here's the thing, shout out to Elaine May and any other role models who, they don't network. That's my struggle as networking. And good on her. She didn't do the.
I like that about her. It makes me like, it's like the exact opposite advice you get all the time. Yeah. Which is why it's so attractive.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, it's power moves.
She did give an interview in 1975, technically. And this is from an interview she gave at the New School for Social Research in New York. Comments about writing a movie script. "I wanted to see if I could get away with it. And they cut it out. Cut it right to the throat, I mean. They do not cut out the peripheral stuff. They cut out exactly what you wrote the thing for. They know somehow. In doing the first movie, A New Leaf, I realized it was quite an insane industry. And I was new enough to know it. You would not be able to open a fruit stand that way. I mean, they would laugh you out of town. You just take a chance. You experiment and you fall on your ass. The world does not offer it to you. No, this country does not offer it to you. It's a bad setup for people who are in the arts. It's really hard to work here. Mike Nichols once said that if you have a career, your career is diametrically opposed to your work. And that's true. It's like a credit rating. I mean, you just really are terrified if you miss a phone bill because you know at some place there's some computer that's recording it all and someone will call it up and give you a bad rating. And that's a very hard atmosphere to go ahead and experiment in. So after a while, you just say, forgive me, fuck it, I'll do it anyway.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much.
That's why I wanted to. That was the part I really wanted.
Oh, that's a great quote. I wanted to take a picture of that on my phone. At some point.
Yeah, we'll get that worked out.
Mistakes happen. You can't let that paralyze
that
you.
whole like, there's some, that some place there's a computer that's recording it all.
Yeah,
it's like, that's so contemporary. That is so like right now.
So prophetic.
This is some of the avoiding press. I think she understands that like I won't spoil anything.
She's not trying to create a paper trail.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting approach to to life, to this work. And maybe it didn't serve her the best, but I don't know. I also find it, I don't know. On our last episode about her, we did sort of talk about she had a fast life, right?
Yeah.
She quit school at 14. She was married at 16.
Yeah.
She had her daughter Jeannie at 18. And then when the marriage ended, she left Jeannie with her mother. And Elaine hitchhiked to the University of Chicago because they accepted students without high school diplomas. If you didn't have a high school diploma, they said, that's okay. You can come enroll here anyway. We'll accept you. She never enrolled. But what she did do was fall in with like the Beat Theater kids and, audited classes and did things like that. And she got involved with a group called the Compass Players, who essentially the founders went on to create Second City. Compass Players is one of the first improvisational groups in the country. Theatrically, it's a big deal. This is where she meets Mike Nichols. But, I will say he couldn't improvise until he met Elaine.
Wow.
Then she kind of opened up something for him. She always played challenging and sophisticated women. Mm-hmm. She understood improv as like, it's about possibilities. And she never made herself into like a nurse, a wife, or a sister or whatever. She would make herself the doctor, the psychiatrist, the lawyer, or, someone said the wicked witch. Elaine, she got connected to a woman named Viola Spolin, who's kind of regarded as the high priestess of improvisation. She came up with like theater games, as a concept and all that. This was a woman who really, she was a WPA children's theater teacher. And she spent a lot of time working with kids and like was very much focused on like living and organic, non-authoritarian creative environments. Felt like this is the only way you're going to grow and achieve any kind of artistic freedom. And very much right brain, intuition, the unknown.
Yeah.
And this really unlatched something in Elaine. And once that happened, people noticed like she was just this incredibly gifted improviser. And a lot of it, right. I mean, we have listeners who care about comedy, but for those of you who like don't, there's plenty of people who don't know anything. I mean, improv isn't necessarily about being funny.
Yeah.
Right. It's like about life.
Right.
It's about like being in a moment.
The funniest scenes tend to be that they really are very grounded, or they're very you're not playing for a laugh line.
Exactly. And that playing part, this thing that Spolin taught them was to cure themselves of this approval-disapproval syndrome.
I love that.
It's a complete anathema to the creative impulse. Mm-hmm. And that's, again, like you can't be going for a laugh all the time because that's the approval. That's the approval thing. And
yes.
And I don't know. I just found all this really fascinating because I think like it all speaks to her magic. And it speaks to like, there's a really fantastic interview with her in the New York Times from 1967 that, if you can read it, it's fabulous. But you read it and you realize that, oh, the whole thing's a bit. And she's just really kind of, the reporter gets it, fortunately, but she's kind of having him on, and it's really funny. It's just like a really funny interview. And this thought that like you can kind of keep up that performance artness, and like you can keep up this expectation of you as being this incredible wit if you kind of minimize how often you have to do it. Because she's given some, she what was it, Mike Nichols? Oh fuck, I should have looked this detail up. It was either his birthday or some award ceremony for him where she gave this like incredibly funny speech for him. And like 2 minutes in, he's got like tears streaming down his face because he's laughing so hard because they just like knew how to cut each other up perfectly. I don't know. She's had a few, she's had plenty of, well, not plenty, but there's all this like recognition that's kind of catching up to her now, which is like great, but definitely long overdue. And, you know, she was given the National Medal of Arts, which is like a presidential medal. She got that in 2013. And not that that's like, but you know, it's something. And in 2016, the Writers Guild of America gave her a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I believe her acceptance speech for that is also pretty funny from what I understand. Right. Although I always was given to understand this really cynical way that when you get a Lifetime Achievement Award, it's essentially saying, oh, your career's over. Mm-hmm. And it's like,
yeah, it's kind of like, and you're done.
You're done. Clap it out. Clap it out. Like, oh no.
You get to rest now. You earned it.
You know, we got a lot of positive responses to covering her. This woman does not give interviews, and I still tried to like reach out to whatever publicist email I could find to like see if we, you know, because you know,
that's dope,
because we put it on the vision board. We said we want to have Elaine May, but I'm like, and I wrote in the message to the publicist like, we have no sponsorship, we have no funding. We have a very small audience.
You're so badass that you did that.
Well, I mean, like, you got to reach for the stars, you know?
I fucking love that.
I was just
you
like,
never know.
I mean, I don't know how to book anybody. So why not her?
Yeah, no, but I say, but truly though, like, why not her if she were
I just thought
to be interested in any outlet?
I'll embarrass myself with a non-response. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
I mean, at least it's flattering.
We're not anybody. Maybe that would get her. Cure yourself of the approval disapproval syndrome.
I love that so much. That is so important, and at the same time, especially you know, I feel like just before these big institutions kind of got busted, so to speak, like over the last couple years or so, it's like I just feel like some of that upheaval, it's like realizing those systems that got built up into what they were actually entirely about approval and the right people's approval. There's a lot of impurity.
I mean, it's a sick business. I mean, you know, May talks about this.
When you put a hierarchy in it, it's going to turn into that, you know.
And there's, you know, it's
and all the schools are guilty. I'm not calling
No. I mean, like, it's there's always a hierarchy.
Right.
You know?
It's true.
It's true.
It's so true.
It's true, because even if you're all like on the same level, somebody's, you know, cuter.
I always figured if I lived on a commune that was all like peace and love or whatever, there's still like the favored.
Oh, there's still petty everything. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Any other Elaine May thoughts or movie thoughts? Like more notes about the movie. I'm like, where's the rest of my...
I mean, other than to unload about the 2007 one.
I mean, you can keep going if you need to.
This is, you know, for however much flack Elaine May's gotten her criticism for being held to a stupid standard about how she should be representing her own gender on film.
God.
Then you look at the Farrelly Brothers movie, which just, you know.
Yeah.
The fucking, I think I'm going to say her name, Malin Ackerman. You know, they have her playing the Lila character in the remake, and she is, I think, still a perfectly fine person. But they went out of their way to really just try and play up what like that she was so crazy that she was beyond just like the odd quirks that get under your skin, like the way someone chews or their laugh. It's beyond. They make her into this farcically like fucked up. There's always liquids coming out of her nose, and just like, you know, like she takes like a hideous shit in the bathroom like on their honeymoon. You know what I mean? Like they really go out of their way to try and like
make her gross,
to make you sympathize with Ben Stiller, whereas it was more of like
in this movie, she's kind of like just like an annoying jinx almost, like, you know, more than
I would say. It's more of just like in the original one, they're really just getting I think it's less about what she's doing and so much more about how he is magnifying, like the way the camera is focused on her mouth when she's eating egg salad, which I thought reminded me right away of Anomalisa, and because it's a very similar situation where this the character is infatuated with a woman, and then after, and you know, like a very romantic evening in a hotel room or whatever. They spend the next day together, and just right away she's talking, she's eating, there's egg on her mouth in that scene too. And I wonder if there's an homage there. I mean, because he's just staring, and they're doing claymation of this, but it's like
it doesn't matter,
that fixation. On
no,
her.
You're right. His magnification of the thing, like it could,
it's much smaller.
Through the eyes of love, any of those things could be accepted. Or at least tolerated.
Because I've met far more obnoxious people than this.
Oh, yeah. She's pretty low key.
Like, she's actually pretty normal.
She's kind of sedate and chill and not pretentious.
I thought of it more of like my nightmare in a way. Because like I do be saying things like, do you love me? Or I do be acting needy sometimes with my own boyfriend. And like, I just would hate to think it's like, oh yeah.
When they showed up in Miami, I am like living for that 1972 Miami Beach look that she has.
Oh yeah, she looks so great.
With the big sunglasses and the kerchief, like the silk kerchief. Oh my God.
She has such great hair too.
Oh God.
She was lovely. Like
she was great. She was great. She was so funny. And like there were scenes that reminded me of A New Leaf, like when they're in the car and she's unbuttoning her shirt. Yeah. And he's just kind of like, I have to be able to shift. I have to be able to shift, you know, like it reminded me of the, like, don't let them out, you know?
Don't let them out.
Like this kind of like, he's not as asexual as that character was, but there are these elements of, you're so ridiculous and I can't, and I'm just going to run circles around you, like while I try to arrange what it is I really want. And I don't know, there's a lot of the same selfish maleness. And where people have said that Elaine May casting her daughter in this role was a bit sadistic on her part, because I don't think so much, because I think the joke is ultimately on Leonard.
The joke should be on Leonard.
But I think some people saw this and felt it was just kind of cruel in a way to make her this object of revulsion.
I felt like Jeannie Bergen was entirely like in... like she had authority over hers. I'm trying to find, she had agency. Yeah. She was self-aware, and I think her whole performance was...
Well, she didn't really have time on screen to like resolve much. Like he divorces her kind of going out the door.
Yeah. But by the same token, I will say, like, every scene, you know, interestingly, even though these ones that are supposed to annoy you or whatever, she's still a very grounded, relatable character, you know. Totally. I think you know, even like the way she was whining, like with once she got sunburnt, I thought he was being way too mean. I was like, I would be the same. I've done that when I've been arrogant, and like I
wanted to get a really good tan.
Oh, and she was like, you know, it was
you're not going to be a normal person until Wednesday. And he's
shouting at her. He's so mad at that point. At that point, I'm like, well, this is just what relationships are sometimes. You know,
that was a pretty sublime cut, though, to go from like her refusing it to just instantly burned. I also thought there was a great cut in the father, you know, well, you love Kelly, well, so do I, and then it's like cut to the wedding, like after he's just tried to offer him $25,000,
which I was wondering how much would that be in present day money.
I didn't do the calculation, but just a lot.
$164,000. Over $100,000.
That's a lot of money.
Cool. Cumulative rate of inflation 556.2%.
Jesus, that's depressing.
He really wanted that wasp.
He really wanted him gone. Yeah.
Oh no, I was saying.
Oh yeah. You're right. Both and.
They both. Yeah. God, see, this is the man and woman's nightmare. Yeah. Like, imagine you open up to someone, you know, and then this happens, and she's really actually. It was,
fuck this guy.
Then when you really go back and think about it, it's like, she wanted to give him a blowy in the car. Right. She had a little bit of food on her mouth. She got a sunburn.
Yeah, she's not. And
then everything else after that, like, I can't swim and this and that. It's like, well, you know, you never would. You don't marry someone because you care if they can swim.
Well,
like,
I think it's funny that's like, well, I married this woman too fast, so how am I going to fix this problem? By rushing into a whole different relationship. Yeah, like you're doing the exact same thing, and he turns into a child around Kelly.
Yes,
when they're on the beach, and he's just like, your laugh. Like he just loved
you're an incredible woman.
Yeah.
Oh, you're wonderful.
And like,
it's so funny the way he's doing it is very like sketchy in that sense.
It is.
Wonderful.
No, and it just like doesn't make sense. Like how he's so out of control. She's so in control. And how does he not see that she's just toying with him? He just doesn't. He just is like, no, like you're the one I want, and I now am going to get you. I don't know. It's just such a frustrating.
I agree.
Frustrating character.
I do feel like
an honest meal.
There was one of the lines I really liked was just Kelly going when he's just going on and on at her, and he's like, well, tell me, what do you think of all that? And she's like, well, I can't, like, what'd she say? I can't think if I'm listening. Which I just thought was such a real, like, an honest answer. I found that it wasn't even necessarily supposed to be a joke line, but I found that very funny.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I can't think if I'm listening.
I mean, and she essentially repeats the behavior he's complaining about in that car, like, and he just falls for it all over again, even though he's like, oh, I get it, I was something to do, but then it's like, but you still don't get it, like, oh my god.
No, he's manipulating her at that point when he starts complaining about everything. He's like, I gave up this, I did that.
That scene is like so like frustrating and wonderful at the same time, because it's like it's really holding a mirror up to some people who need it held up to them. And like, again, the fact that it escaped people's notice that this was critique, you know, it's gonna happen, but it is a little troubling, you know. Man, what a good ending. Very good ending.
It was strong. I didn't even realize. I just want to hear it again. I was 10 once. Like,
I was 10 once.
Wow.
Please write us a review.
I mean, if you hung out with us this long, you must like us enough to want to do that.
I mean, like, I don't hate to say it, it's just the truth. If you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, it really helps new people find us and helps strangers see us, and we get ranked in a way
we appreciate it.
I mean, it's also nice to read your comments and your thoughts, but I mean, honestly, you know, you could say anything, and if you don't have the energy to write, just tell somebody about us.
Tell your mom. I love it.
I don't know what else to beg them to do.
I don't know either. Okay,
clap your hands.
Hey, wait, no, the sound.
Jump up and down.
Thanks for joining us on our 20th episode. Episode 20.
Yay. We could just run through if you want to. Here, all right, hang on. We did that. That off.
Episode 20. Episode 20.
Episode 20.
Episode 20.
Cool.
And it was like, episode 20. You know what I mean? Yeah. 20. I know. I didn't have anything else to say, you guys. I'm so sorry.
That one takes a long time. I see the countdown. I was like, do we still have 10 seconds?
That was just like every open mic.
There's one more. Oh, God. This is like a minute long. I don't know about this.
Oh, yeah. Episode 20. We started at 1 and then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, then 9, then 10, 11, and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Now it's 20. Episode 20. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
30
9, 10,
seconds.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 episodes after episode 1. It's episode 20. Ooh. Then we'll do 21. Ooh. And then we're gonna keep going till we stop. And that's the way podcasts work. La 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 la.
That was incredible.
Really?
I couldn't even look at you.
Thank you for listening to A Breath of Fresh Movie. You can follow us on Twitter at Fresh Movie Pod. You can follow us on Instagram at A Breath of Fresh Movie, or you can email us. We actually prefer that at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com.